tell me, how did you get your interest in comedy?
Well, I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, and I got my interest in comedy because, I don't know if you've ever been to Ottawa. Back at the time, when I was growing up there in the 80s, there was fucking nothing to do. So I got a job as a stand-up comic because I couldn't get a job just working. You know, when all the other kids were getting jobs out of high school, I didn't get one because I guess folks didn't really like the look on my face. I don't know. I have no explanation for that. So I kind of got forced into doing stand-up, and because I had to earn some kind of money, you know, because my parents were looking at me like, is this guy ever going to get a job?
That's the same way that my parents kind of look at me right now when I'm in the radio broadcast, couldn't find anything, and I decided, hey, I'm going to start a podcast and see where that leads.
Right.
So your comedy style, it draws people in. I really like it. I always watch your Just for Laughs comedy specials, the ones that you do in Sydney as well. My first year at Carleton, I really enjoyed your humor, but people say that it's a confusing yet very shrewd way of, you know, getting comedy across. Did that just come naturally to you, or is it something that you felt you had to be different?
I tried to find... there was a brief time where everyone was trying to find sort of what their hook and what was going to make them unique and different or something like that. I remember there was talk about that early on in my career, and I guess I did try to do some of that, but this came as went on, and I had the festival coming up in my first or second festival coming up in 4 months in Montreal, and I just really was fed up with everything, and they were telling me that they wanted to hear this material and they want it done this way, and then I just went up and I made up this character and this material, and that was all, you know, miserable and all this shit the other, and I just tried it and it just annihilated, and then I walked that through to Montreal, and then that's when I made it after that festival. That's how it all happened. I got all these deals. Take
us through that process of, you know, because you mentioned growing up in Ottawa, not getting any jobs, so comedy was kind of the way to get in. But take us through the process of going from Ottawa to getting the call for Just for Laughs.
Right. Okay. So the way it worked was I started in Ottawa because what was happening was Yuck Yucks was expanding. They had one in Toronto. So what I'd done was I'd gone down to Toronto to do, you know, and this is after I had no money. I took the bus up to Toronto from Ottawa, the Voyageur Colonial. And then it stopped. The bus station happened to be, this is great, walkable to the Yuck Yucks. It was on Bay Street, and so was the bus station. So I would get off the bus and I walked down the street to down onto Yorkville, and I would literally walk into the comedy club, and then I did the set, I remember, and then I remember being very last, and there were like 14 or 15 people on in front of me, but it wasn't a time where the audience would leave. They would stay for the whole amateur show. So they had one professional comic, and then everyone else was an amateur, and I went on last, and for some reason, I killed. For some reason, I have no explanation as to why, but I know that it was good because when they were screaming, and when I got off, I guess I was in tears because I figured I'd finally found something I wanted to do. And then the owner came up and asked me if I wanted to do this professionally, and I said, well, yeah, I mean, I guess. Because I didn't have anything else. And then he said he's opening up a club in Ottawa, and would I like to be a local act there? And I said, yeah. The club opened up in Ottawa. 8 months later, I got so good that I moved to Toronto.
And then I guess through Toronto, someone seen you and said, hey, why don't you audition for Just for Laughs?
That's what happened. What happened was they said Just for Laughs came touring around because they were going to do the festival, and they came and they saw me. There was talk of, after the show that they had liked me, but I heard it from the other comics. I didn't know. I had a good show. There was talk that they liked me. And 3 months afterwards, I went to the Montreal Comedy Festival.
Okay.
As a young man.
And why was it like going to the Just for Laughs or Comedy Festival? Were you nervous? Were you excited?
Yeah. Fucking big deal, because there weren't a lot of Canadians that they chose, right? They mostly chose Americans, and they still do, So it was very difficult to get, and then I got it, and I think I was more nervous about my first Just for Laughs, where I really blew it out and got the big standing ovation. I was more nervous about that show than my first Letterman.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you want to bring it in Canada, especially in Montreal. That you've got so much stuff that comes out of Montreal. You have the Just for Laughs festivals. They do the Just for Laughs kind of gags as well. So I mean, the comedy is kind of big in Montreal. So you want to do well there.
Oh yeah, it's the biggest comedy festival in the world. It still is. So, and it comes out of our country. So I really, really wanted to do really well.
The one thing that I really like about your act as well is when you did move to LA, or telling about your time in LA, you mentioned about Tarzana, and you basically made the joke of they think if they just strap on an N or an A, they don't think that people will know that you're living in Tarzan.
Yeah.
When you're coming up with these jokes, do you cater?
I've noticed shit, eh? I noticed the stupidest, smallest fucking shit. I know, eh? It's really funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's hilarious.
I don't know why. I have no answer for that. I don't know why. It's not these great big political statements. It's these tiny little things that that people have thought about but not ever seen the funny in it, and then I pull it out and go, here. And then they go, that's fucking hilarious. I wrote a great joke the other day that I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. How did it go? Oh, it's got to be done perfectly. So the only way to do it is, I'm having an affair with a woman named April. When we check in at a motel, she checks in under an assumed month. That fucking kills me.
I think it's the way that you deliver the jokes as well, because you always have the hand over the mouth, and it looks like you're so worried, and then when you deliver it, it's just like, I mean, I've watched you a few years now and everything, so I get it, but when someone's first watching you, they're kind of like, is he nervous? Is it planned? And then
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Is he mentally challenged? What's the matter with this guy?
So when you got these calls to do the Late Show at Letterman and the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, what was that like? What was going through your mind? Like, did you feel like you made it?
Oh yeah, there's nothing. That's the end of it. Once you do at that time anyway, I don't know if it's changed now, but once you do Letterman and Leno, and then I had a Comedy Central special there at the same time, and I was just my own special just for I think when I got the Leno and the Letterman, that was like everything. You know what I mean? There's not really much left. So I went international and I started doing like Australian shit.
This is something I just found out today. You are also a staff writer for the Jon Stewart Show. How did you get that gig?
I was. Okay, I got that job. I was in Canada, and I remember being turned. I almost got a gig. Remember the Kids in the Hall?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. So they had a show, and I knew some of those guys, and I was more known as a performer, right? Early on in my thing, so I was a really good performer. They said the other comics anyway, but they said I wasn't a very good writer. So then I wrote these sketches for the Kids in the Hall, and they were like, these are fucking fantastic. And I almost got that gig. I almost got that gig as a writer on the Kids in the Hall, but it didn't work out. But I submitted some of those sketches that I wrote for the Kids in the Hall, plus some other ones, to New York, because I heard the Jon Stewart Show was starting up, and I had a friend who was on the show, and he showed my shit to the head writer guy, and at the end of it, after 3 months, they chose me.
Okay.
And then I wasn't the greatest writer because I didn't know how to write on TV. But so I learned how to do that, which was good in the year and a half that I was there. But they used me a lot in the sketches because I was a really good actor, right? I'm more of a performer. So I did a lot of, the other guys would write the sketch and they would hire me because it was almost guaranteed laughs. You know what I mean?
And how did you get along with Jon Stewart?
Oh, he's a great guy. A really nice guy. I was really happy, and I'm really, really pleased that I got to work with him. Honestly, out of all the shows I've been on, one of the nicest, most genuine people you would ever meet. Very nice gentleman.
And I don't mean to badmouth Jon Stewart in a way, but now I've read a few of his books, and I've heard, he's very demanding, he's very into what he's doing, he's very passionate. Did you find that when you were, writing with him that...
Not at all.
No?
I know that he was very, when the show was canceled, because it was a syndicated program, so it was on at different times all over the country. When it was finally canceled, he called everyone into the room, and he was very disappointed, not because the show was canceled, but because all these people are now out of work, and he felt responsible.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy Jon Stewart is.
Now, of course, I want to also mention that you won a Gemini Award for your role on the television series The Newsroom in 1997.
I did win Best Actor. That was good.
And just enlighten me. What was because 997, I'm only 6. What was The Newsroom? What was that show about?
That was probably the best show that had ever been produced in the country to that time. It was kind of a behind-the-scenes look at the workings of a newsroom, kind of like Adam Sorkin did, except his was a drama, ours was a comedy. And in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, the 30-minute comedy is far superior than the drama that came afterwards. It was a great show.
Okay. Now, you also have written and starred in your own comedy special on Canada and the CBC Comics entitled Whatever Happened to Jeremy Hotz. What made you choose that as your title, and why did you come up with that idea?
I don't know. I just thought it'd be kind of neat where the guy, it's one of those stupid documentaries, and we got this documentary guy that's trying to do this dumb documentary, and he's got the story on this comic, and then you go through the whole thing, and the comic's disappeared, and he was just about to break and be famous, and then you find out at the end that he just went to the cottage for the weekend and didn't tell anyone. It was a fucking complete waste of time, the entire documentary.
That's one way to draw fans in to watch you. No.
Yeah.
And
kill me.
And I just want to see how, because I've got a source up here too, and I just want to see how relevant Wikipedia is here now. But it just says that you finished shooting the pilot of My Life in a Movie for Muse Entertainment and Adjacent to Productions.
A long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I figured Wikipedia should update their shit. But I want to talk.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I want to say this though. Are you currently working on any other projects?
Yeah.
Can you give us some kind of insight of what those are?
Yeah, I can tell you a bit about it. Yeah, I'm working on a sitcom here with KP Anderson from Pygmy Wolf Productions for Network, so hopefully that moves forward. I'm also I'm on the first episode of Jay Leno's Garage on CNBC, which is on in June. You can check whatever listings there. That'll be funny. What else? From a cartoon, there's an animated series as well that I'm getting in touch with a guy that we're trying to bitch around, but that's at the very early stages. So we're working on 3 things right now at the same time.
And the last question I want to kind of finish it up on here is, who are some of the guys that you looked up to when you first started?
George Carlin. That's why I stand up in the first place. Went to the Ottawa National Arts Center in Ottawa, and I went with my brother when I was about 9, and there was George Carlin on stage doing the 7 words you can't say on television, and we were dying laughing. And when we left, I said to my brother, one day I'm going to do that, and sure enough. All those years later, I played the exact same venue that I saw him at 9 or 10 times now.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Jeremy Hotz for coming on the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying, thanks for listening and good night.